This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
You're probably going to have a realization in the next 20-something minutes, maybe an epiphany about your life, where you are, why you do what you do, why you don't do what you think you should do. And this all goes back to your childhood, all those memories, all those things that happened to you. We've talked about that before. They're called traumas. I have to say it. I'm going to say it again. If you think you don't have any, you're so radically wrong. And the traumas don't have to be, car accident type, but you have them. And what do you do with them? How do you pilot forward? She provides so much insight and clarity. She's a Reiki master, pastoral counselor, intuitive guide, interfaith minister, and so much more. And I've learned so much in talking with her. I think we both learned about ourselves along the way here. And that's why she's our professional of the year. She makes you think. Chris Clearday is back. How's everything going with you?
Really good. How are you?
I am good. Sometimes I'm a little cautious because I wonder what's going to come up, as we discuss things, but it's all good. So last week we talked about childhood memories. I think it started because I heard something that your first childhood memory is often a not positive one. And that's because you need to heal from it, or it's there, your subconscious is throwing it at you because it wants to keep you safe. And we kind of dug into that and shared some situations with us. We realized these wounds and what they're doing to hold us back, but what do you do with them now? That's where I'm thinking we should go with this today. What do you think?
Well, yes. And I think that it would be helpful to distinguish a few things before we get to the what do we do with them now, because last week I suggested that people write down, journal their earliest memory and what they think the impact was on them, how it changed them. And so I'm hoping that there are people who have done that or who will do that. And then what I want to provide today is a real breakdown of how this occurs. So, you really have to go back in order to uncover these old memories, in order to heal them, because they don't just usually spontaneous heal. So, so if we go back so that we can move forward, we really need to do a little excavation so we can have a better understanding, because these earliest memories usually give us our primary addiction to suffering. And then, as we were just discussing before this podcast started, also our greatest strength can come out of these traumas. And they're little traumas. They're little things that people say or do that they don't realize have an impact on you generally, though they have a big impact. They can change your life for the rest of it. So I have some examples. Okay, this is a scenario. You ready?
Go.
Okay, so let's say a significant to you event occurs. Okay, let's say you're 2 or 3 years old and your babysitter doesn't let you have your favorite stuffed animal when she's putting you to bed. And you can't seem to make her understand what you want or need and why it's so important to you. So you end up crying yourself to sleep. And let's say it took you an hour to fall asleep or more. And during that time, you're feeling and thinking that you must be really unimportant and that your needs don't matter. And then from there, that's your own unique lens. You're filtering it through that lens, okay? And then you anchor into this raw feeling state, which is negative, where you feel really sad, confused, and powerless. And then you begin to actually believe that you are unimportant and that your needs don't actually matter. And this gets reinforced with consistent negative thoughts. And this is as you're developing. So let's say you're then 4, 5, 6, 7. And what happens is that you eventually stop trying to ask for what you need or want and you don't share when your feelings are hurt, and you can't seem to get your needs met well. And this goes on through life and it picks up momentum. And so as your neural pathways are getting cemented into these negative ways of thinking, feeling, behaving, your childhood narrative, which by the way, of course, is false,
Mm,
you were important. The babysitter didn't mean to do that damage. Um, your false childhood narrative has caused you to have these repetitive destructive thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, which steadily and consistently take you away from who you're meant to be. And
mm,
what happens after decades of this is that you end up feeling powerless, less than, you don't ask for what you need, you settle for less than you should, you can't advocate well for yourself, and you end up being very dissatisfied in your life because subconsciously you don't think you deserve to be fulfilled. And all of this came out of one little micro trauma that actually could have been a misunderstanding. So, like, your babysitter might not have been able to understand which stuffed animal you wanted, or your mother might have told her which one you absolutely had to have upon going to bed, and she might have gotten it mixed up with another one. Like, there might have been all kinds of good intentions, or maybe your mom was in a rush to get out the door and she said the wrong one. Whatever it was, your babysitter was committed to giving you this one, not that one, and it was a total breakdown in communication. No ill intentions. Now, sometimes there are ill intentions in our worst, earliest memories, but in this case, you see how something really, a child being as sensitive as they are and likely to take things personally will internalize this and feel certain ways about themselves. And then you can see the through thread of that wound in the tapestry of their life.
thank you for sharing that. And that's just one situation. Again, you said it could be a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
The thing I find intriguing is how the subconscious, and that's where this goes in. It was a real life situation, but now it's in your subconscious. So a couple of thoughts here. You're that 2-year-old, and everything's great, man. Life is going on, and now that one little situation, as minor as it seems, took you off your course of being who you were destined to be.
Hmm.
Some believe when we're born, we are born with a blueprint. This is what we are. This is who we are. This is what our passions are and our purpose in life is. And now this situation comes up, and now the car of life has turned a little bit, and now you're off your path. It happens. But
To
now,
all, yeah.
right? And now something else comes up, and you feel like you're not heard. And it could be a misunderstanding, or it could be, intentional, or not. Now your life car veered a little more off course, and then in a little bit more. I find it fascinating, and you said this before, that the subconscious is always looking for evidence to back this stuff up. So
Yeah.
you had that one situation with the babysitter, then another one, then another one. So in that little mind, the subconscious is saying, see, your needs aren't getting met. See, you're not heard. See. And there it begins, right?
Yes.
Mm.
True. And I got to tell you something. So I talked to my dad this morning. He's 85 now. Okay. And he's really with it, thank God. And it's really interesting. We were talking about his earliest memory and my earliest memory. And oh, by the way, I'm wearing my mom's shirt. My mom has been gone for over 23 years, no, 22 years, almost 23. I'm wearing her necklace. And I do this. I've worn her shirts during our podcasts for 3 or 4 other times.
Whoa.
And it's because it's a sense of comfort for me. And, even though the relationship had many problems, but I know my mother loved me and I am lucky to have things that belong to her. So they are comforting for me. So anyway, I was talking to my dad and he clarified that I was not 3.5 when my parents separated, which is what I thought. I was 2.5, which makes a lot more sense given my worst earliest memory. And here's something interesting also. So my earliest memory, I anchored into feeling unimportant, neglected, um, like I didn't matter, like I couldn't advocate for myself. Okay, so that was certainly the true thread of my life until I got to really figure this stuff out. Now, my father's first memory is he's a young child. He might have been 2 years old. He was wearing some kind of a onesie and it was hot. So he took it off and he's walking down the street in his neighborhood completely naked. And one of his neighbors, the neighbor lady, gets him and takes him back home. This was back in the day when children could like run around their neighborhoods like that. Okay. So another child might have made this mean something bad. My father is pretty much unshakable. Nothing gets under his skin. And from that he wasn't ashamed. He certainly it certainly defined him because he could probably walk around naked in the middle of New York City right now. Like
It doesn't bother him.
he just he doesn't really care about things like that. Nothing made him feel bad. His next earliest memory, he ate a whole bowl of tapioca. Some of it was supposed to be for his little cousin. He doesn't feel bad about that. Like another child could have felt terrible about that, and that could have defined them. But
Hmm.
some people don't, and some people do. I think we all do to some extent. But also, our greatest strength can come out of our worst, earliest memory. For example, mine, we just determined, because I just got to work this out with you, was determination. I was incredibly determined as a child, and eventually I learned how to get my needs met.
So I want to go back to your father's first memory. Was that for him a negative memory?
No, he
Okay.
he doesn't have a negative first memory.
Hmm.
Now, I'm sure that if I had more time to talk to him, we'd come up with something that happened when he was young that was negative, and we'd see the impact and the through thread of his life. But also, we see that he just doesn't seem to let things bother him.
Well, okay, and that's fantastic.
Lucky for him, I
Lucky
know.
for lucky for him. Uh, but it goes to show that every child is different. Every human is different. How these things affect. Um, we've had this discussion about the earliest childhood memory be negative. At least we identified that. Now I'm reframing this. Are we looking for negative memories? I'm not trying to. I'm just thinking back. I'm like, what comes up? What comes up? There might be a positive one here and there, but it's not, it doesn't have the magnitude of the negative memory, if you
Right.
will.
Yeah, then I think that we do cling to those negative memories at least subconsciously until we have the opportunity to heal them. And there's a lot of power in just going back and figuring it out and understanding it.
Mm.
And I'm so glad that I got to find out this morning that I was 2.5. Like that makes so much more sense in with all the things that I was remembering.
Isn't it amazing? Even at our ages, like this stuff gets revealed. Um, and even, I found belongings from my father last summer, and I learned certain things along the way. And thank you for the reminder about what you're wearing from your mom. Like I'm gonna start wearing my dad's stuff. I get a watch and everything. I'm gonna
Yeah.
laser this down because the watch just flicked in my head.
Mhm.
Um, the number 7 and 11 has always come up when, in numbers and everything. And, even messages from my mom. And I'm like, I never understood it. Then I thought about it. And my father died on 7/11. So now it came clear. And I forgot about that because I was 21. Even the
Yeah.
numbers 3 and 4 come up, and I'm not even going to get into it. The signs that my mom sends, they always add up to 7/11. Push that aside for a moment. Back to the belongings. This past New Year's Eve, I was like going out and it's, in the evening and I'm like, you know what? I need a watch. Open up a jewelry box. Put on my dad's watch. You know, he got this one from his job. 20 years service. Blah, blah, blah. Again, this thing is old. It's like a Hamilton watch way back. So I put it on, and I'm like, oh, it's 7-Eleven. Wow. All right. And I was getting dressed and everything. Then I realized it was about 7-Eleven when I'm getting dressed. The watch wasn't running. It was stuck on 7-Eleven. Like, WTF? What are the chances of that? But
Yeah.
that came up for me when you said you're wearing your mom's stuff. I should be wearing his watch, even though it doesn't work. It doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah.
Mm. So we've identified the traumas. What do we do now?
Well, I think that it's helpful to understand specifically what happened to you, specifically. And also, let's not forget that the greatest strength comes out of that as well. So let's identify the the greatest weakness or primary addiction to suffering and the greatest strength. And then moving forward, just having an understanding of these is so powerful. And many of us don't look back. Like, I didn't look back at my earliest memory. There's nobody that I could talk to about it who was there. My mother's been gone for 22 years. The babysitter, no idea who that was. Um,
Right?
we're so I was glad that my father could provide this additional insight. I think it was a damn good thing that I asked him now because he's not going to be around forever.
Yeah.
And so once we distinguish these things, then notice the through thread in your life and maybe write down more instances of what the primary wound was and when you re-experienced that through your life. And I guarantee you that if you're married right now, it's an issue in your marriage. If you're not married and you have friends, it's an issue with your friends. It's an issue at work, and it's an issue in within your own mind and how you think about yourself. And so the question is really that you have is like, well, what to do with that? So I would say journal the hell out of it and
Mm.
understand that it was all based on a false narrative. Okay? You were loved, you were wanted, you were understood to the best of the people's ability around you to understand you and to the best of their ability to love you. And
Should you be making those statements in your journal? Why recognizing what went on, but understanding that, unless it was intentional abuse, I'm going to put that to the side.
exactly.
That's different.
Yes.
But should you even acknowledge in your journal, my mom, I know my mom loved me. She had some challenges. There were some moments that hurt. I realize this is what's going on in my life now based on that. I'm working to change it. Should you use that narrative?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
It's so powerful to understand that your the framework of your life was based on a false narrative and to uncover the truth. Now, except for in cases of abuse and neglect, it is very true that everybody was loved. Like, some parents don't really know how to love, but they tried their best. And so, but even in the cases of abuse and neglect, abuse, it's easy to identify what happened. But we should say that in neglect, it's not easy to identify what happened because nothing happened. Like, your parents didn't do something to you. The problem is that whoever your primary caregiver was, that they didn't do anything. Like, they didn't they didn't give you attention. Um, they didn't give you a lot of love. But in those cases, you can affirm that their sickness or their problems didn't define your own self-worth and that you do actually deserve those things. And so I recommend doing a lot of affirmations, starting with the words I deserve. So if you grew up feeling neglected, you could say, um, and maybe they were terrible people who were neglecting you, and maybe they were abusing you also. You can still affirm, I deserve to feel loved. I deserve
Mm,
to feel
mm.
important. I deserve to feel happy and at peace. So your affirmations matter. But I would suggest instead of saying, I am loved, I am happy, I am at peace, that you always start with the words I deserve. Because if you're feeling unlovable and you're in the unlovable funk and you say, I'm lovable, it just lands like bullshit on your nature. Your subconscious
Well,
says,
yeah,
no,
because you're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe your own crap, because your
exactly.
subconscious it's already been wired this way to filter this information in. So yeah, the word deserve. Uh, Um,
We have to bypass your subconscious in this point. I mean, and we have to say, I deserve to feel loved because that's truth with a capital T.
yeah,
You do deserve to feel
you
loved.
can't dispute that, and guess what? We all deserve that. There's no lie there. You've said addicted to suffering a few times. How does one know they are? Now, I get it. There are some, we may know people where it's just all they do is just wallow as the victim. And I'm not minimizing anything, but there are some that just like, I can't believe this happened to me again. And all of that. Maybe that's us. Maybe that's you. Maybe that's me. But how do you know that you are addicted to suffering?
Well, take your fingers and just put them right over here. And if there's a pulse, then you are.
I hate you.
So
I'm like getting sucked in. I'm like, oh, this is a new technique I didn't know about. I'm afraid. Honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, Chris. I'm afraid to even do that because I don't know what's going to be revealed right here.
it,
I thought it was
that's
like
right.
some
Yeah,
shamanistic, ritual or whatever.
right.
We're all
That's
addicted to
when it
suffering.
comes out.
We're all addicted to
Yeah, every
suffering.
single person. There are people like my father who really just, he doesn't let really anything bother him, which can be a weakness at times. Okay.
I hear you.
Because
But I'm envious.
he,
But I'm envious.
yeah, I mean, he was neglectful to me. However, I mean, I love him to pieces and he didn't he didn't know what he was doing. He wasn't aware. So, and he's turned a lot of that around, which is thank God he lived long enough to do that. I mean, my father became a good father when he was about 65. And
Mm.
by then he was also a grandfather and he
Does
was
he?
a fantastic grandfather.
Would he agree with that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. My father has had this long-standing joke that I'm not done raising him yet. And we get to laugh about that and it's true. And I mean, we have the greatest relationship and my father really gets me. He's one of the only people in the world that like really gets me. And it is such an honor to be gotten by my father. Like my mother didn't get me. If she lived long enough, I believe she would have.
Do you feel we're digressing? We're almost out of time here. Um, do you feel that people don't get you? Most?
I used to feel that way regularly. Like I would carry that throughout my life. Feeling misunderstood was one of my greatest pains and one of my primary addictions to suffering for sure. And I find that as I get older, it's just been easier for me to make sure that I'm understood because I can advocate for myself. If I'm not feeling heard, I can speak up. And there are times that I have felt misunderstood in the last couple of years, especially by my husband's family. And I have not advocated for myself. I've just kind of shut down.
You sucked it
And
up.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm right
And
there with you. In
yeah,
fact, I'm dealing with it today in a business situation, sort of a partnership, returning some texts to somebody that I was working with. And I don't know what's going on with them right now. But I'm stepping up and normally I would just kind of suck it up. I'm not doing that. But this is, it's just not happening. And I base it on facts. That's where I pilot from. Facts that they don't lie. You can twist them if you want, but they're still there. Um, yeah, I'm still intrigued about the addicted to suffering. Why do we, final question, we are out of time. Why do we want to be addicted to suffering?
well, I think it's a subconscious thing. And I think that we go into dysfunctional nostalgia is that we anchor into the state, we remember the state, it's impactful for us and it's powerful for us because we still remember it all these years later. And it's coming up to be healed, but we didn't know that it was coming up to be healed. We just thought that we deserved it subconsciously. And so I
Mm,
believe that
mm,
that it does come up over and over again to be healed until we take a really good look at it and we get to understand it. And you
mm.
know, time is now for those things because there's so much suffering in the world, legit suffering. There are terrible things happening everywhere. And um, we compound it by not being responsible for knowing ourselves well enough to understand how we're contributing to the disharmony that's in our relationships, in our world.
Um, you said that we feel we deserve these things, that, yeah, addicted to suffering, those things come up and you deal with it, like not saying anything, like not speaking up for yourself. Just in general, I'm talking here. Um, we feel we deserve it for whatever that reason is in the subconscious. So I find it interesting how we're going to flip that around and say, I deserve to be heard. I deserve to be respected. I deserve to be loved.
Mhm.
Mm, wow.
And it really does make a difference because you're building healthy neural pathways every time you say, I deserve, if you say, I deserve to feel loved, I deserve to feel supported, I deserve to be understood, I deserve to be able to advocate for myself.
Yeah.
And all of those healthy neural pathways converge and you fall into a deep pit of happiness,
Yeah.
which counters the deep pit of despair that you were in when you were affirming all of these other negative things. And so neuroscience shows we can create new healthy neural pathways like that. And you can make these changes today. Like you can begin, you're your own worst enemy. We all
Mm,
are. And so instead of affirming the negatives, flip it. Start
mm.
affirming the positives, and you will find the power of an affirmation. That, if you do 24 hours of affirmations, you'll find the next day that you have half as many incidences of the negative thoughts and feelings and behaviors.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
We have an assignment, people. Um, and back where I said, in terms of facts, and that's my belief in my journey at this point, what we're telling ourselves in terms of you deserve this, you deserve that, that's a fact. Your subconscious can't dispute that.
Right.
It's
Your life,
fact.
your life is a gift from the divine, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, and it's precious and sacred. And you came in with all these gifts and special ways of being.
Mm, yeah.
With before you had, then life changed you, or you were changed by life. And a lot of times we see that it's our own perceptions as children that take us more sideways and in reaction to the things that people have said or done.
Thank you
So
for
we can go
today.
from being our own worst enemy to being our own best friend.
I love the bucket of happiness. I want to jump in that. So like the ball pit when you're a kid. ChrisClearday.com is the best way to find you. Questions about this,
Yep.
if you want to dig into it, energetically, any way you're available. Thank you so much for today. You leave us thinking, and it's a wonderful thing. That's your superpower. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.